Hello again. We're going to learn from the first Christians again. This is episode 2. And I start from the background again. We're moving to a different place today. We're going to Egypt. Now, we're going to stay in a place called Alexandra. It's not in Scotland, by the way. It's a big city in Egypt. It was a Greek city, although we're in Egypt. It was named after Alexander the Great, and Greek philosophy, Greek culture was very much present in the place. Let's just think about the library of Alexandria, which was world famous. It was a place of science, a place of philosophy. They were very well known for astronomy as well. So it was a very cosmopolitan city as well, and very wealthy. Now, in that very place, we see Christians, and Christians lived there from the very beginning. Now, we believe that it was actually St. Mark the Evangelist who brought the gospel to Alexandria, to Egypt. So loads of Christians lived there, and loads of Christians were very wealthy. Now, they started having this question: is it possible for a Christian to be both Christian and rich? Seems to be a very interesting issue. The Christians thought that it was actually better for them not to be rich, because as you look on the gospel, you realize that Christ himself was poor, his disciples were poor. Christ says, "Blessed are the poor." You remember a young man who came to speak to Jesus saying, what should I do to have eternal life? And Jesus says to him, well, just obey the commandments. And the man says, I've done it. So then Jesus says, go and sell whatever you possess and give it to the poor, and then come and follow me. And he's not doing it, which is why he is sad, as the gospel says. So the Christians in Alexandria, who were very wealthy, felt bad about their possessions, and they thought, is it probably better not to have what we have to be Christians and to be saved? Now, on this background, please meet today's character. We're going to talk about a man called Clement of Alexandria. He lived in the first half of the 3rd century, which is when the Christians were having this issue. He was not a priest, he was a layman and a catechist. He was preparing young people for the baptism. This issue was very well known to him, so much so that he wrote a book on that, and it was called The Discourse Concerning the Salvation of the Rich Men. So what is Clement of Alexandria saying about that? Here I come to the message. His approach is actually very balanced, and he says, well, possessions are to be regarded as instruments. They can be used either for good or for evil. It's up to you what you do with your possessions. He says, God does not command us to renounce property, but to manage property without inordinate affection. So he talks about discernment. He talks about how much the Christian should be reasonable about what they possess and how they use it. But the best thing he says is in his book called Paidagogos, as a Greek word. He calls Christ Paidagogos, which means tutor, educator. Christ is our tutor, our educator. And he says, I quote, wealth seems to be like a serpent, a snake, which will twist round the hand and bite, unless one knows how to lay hold of it without danger by the point of the tail. And riches wrangling either in an experienced or inexperienced grasp are dexterous at adhering and biting, unless one, despising them, use them skillfully, so as to crush the creature by the charm of the word and himself escape unscathed. So what he says is, your money is like a snake. Your money is like a snake. You need to know how to hold it. If you hold it by the tail, the serpent is going to twist round and bite you. But if you hold your money by the neck, this is when you are in control of it. Now, here I come to life now. You might think, this is not for us, we're not rich. I'm watching this video, I'm watching this talk, and I'm not rich. It's not for me. Well, it's not just for the rich, because you could have heard the story of a monk who only had a pencil. He had nothing else, and everybody was saying, he's a saintly monk, he's perfect. He doesn't have anything, only a pencil. But he would never let people touch his pencil. He would never let anyone come near his pencil. It was his pencil. He put all his trust into his pencil. He was so attached to the little he possessed. So you don't need to have a big money on your bank account to be attached to what you possess. Clement is inspiring us to ask ourselves a few questions. Now, think of what you have. Think of your possessions. How are you using them? Is it not true that maybe something you possess has got hold of you? Think of your phone. Maybe you've been using your phone 24/7. You never leave it. What about you on the internet? How much time you spend on the internet? Maybe it's a person that you've been giving too much to, like a grandchild for a gran. I know myself, a gran who literally destroyed whatever the parents were trying to teach this child. She was giving to him far too much. She was giving her grandson what he didn't actually need, and she destroyed the child in a way. So what about a pet? We know people that are possessed by their pets instead of possessing their pets. Could be anything, could be even your religious practice. You've got a block of things that you do as a Christian. You go to Mass, you say your prayers, say your rosary, but is it actually because God is in there, or because you want to think you're a good Christian, or because it makes you feel better? Is it really about God? Maybe this is your possession. You're wealthy in a way. You feel wealthy because you've been doing religious things. So this is Clement of Alexandra asking us about our possessions and how we possess them. Thank you.